One editing question before we go. How do you end up building these series, these trilogies, these quintets, quartets, etc.? Um, how do you end up building them? Do you sketch out just a general outline of the narrative, or do you just sort of go with it? And then how do some of the scenes end up building? You know, for instance, with the series of repetitions where the watcher's feeding Gareth his lines, or the watcher is repeating the same words as you saw 15 times, or you have a play inserted into it, like Tragedy in the Vast in this one. How did those things uh, appear on the page, and how do you end up redoing scenes in later versions? I recall you sending me a draft of, I think it was that one play with the rock stars, or it may have been something else. I think it was the Remembered Field.
Yeah.
And you had, I saw how you edited things and went back to certain scenes through successive versions.
Oh yeah, I think I sent you about 5 or 6 versions of it. Well, when I when I started doing short stories, for example, and if I had 10 or 12 short stories that I was going to do, I didn't write each story and finish each story. What I did was I'd write the first draft of all 10 or 12 stories, and I'd write the second draft of each of them and go third, fourth, whatever it took, 5, 6, 7, 8 drafts. So that when I sat down and I had like a day off, like I'm off today from work, and I had 6 or 7 hours to write, I would go back and I'd spend a half hour in each story, and maybe I'd plump each short story up by 1,500, 1,200, 2,000 words, whatever it might be. Uh, and and the scenes would cross pollinate. Now, with I use that same kind of technique with stuff like this. Sometimes, like in the bigger novels, like I said, a character like Big Frank or the Norwegian blows up out of nowhere in a Norwegian in the family. With here, Dagonet, I knew from the first play that Dagonet was the guy who could deflate a lot of the mythos with his tongue. He wasn't going to be used in the second play because I only had an idea of that, and that was a much more Sturm und Drang play. But then coming back with Guinevere, I said, "Oh, let me let me have him and Guinevere tangle because she's kind of sarcastic and he's got the wit, and he becomes a more important character that way." So uh, I I have ideas, and I'll say, okay, the first play was going to be setting up the mythos and whatnot. Second play is going to be focused on Gawain and male violence. Third play is Guinevere and the famous love stories. Fourth play is going to be the Grail Quest, and fifth play is going to be the Fall of Camelot, which follows the basic arc of Thomas Mallory and a lot of people who've written about Arthur. But how do you make that different? And you make that different in my case by focusing on the characters. That Camelot falls, that Sir Gawain is restored as the greatest of the knights, that Sir Launcelot and Tristram are reduced to being more caricatures than being the great Studley knights that they are. It just happenstance. And I don't know the particulars, but you have these ideas, you write each scene, and then if I'm doing maybe the 6th scene out of 25 in a play, once I've done that 16, I say, oh, I've got to follow up in scene 17 and add a little mention of that. Then when I get to scene 17, I'm writing that down, and something happens to say, oh, I should go back and make a comment in scene 12 that will foreshadow scene 17, or scene 17 in play 2 might be a foreshadowing of what I'm going to come back to in the 4th or the 5th play. So those things you have to be open to let them evolve narratively. I was telling this guy I was speaking with, the fellow that you just recently Skyped with, Joel Parrish, fellow who contacted me. I was telling him that you have to be open. You can't over sketch things. I remember seeing a woman that I liked almost a quarter of a century ago. He's trying to write a novel, and I think in one of my earlier plays I talked about how silly it was. It has something to do with the sea or something, and she posted on her Facebook page or something all these post-its of need to develop character, and she has this whole timeline, and everything's so hemmed in that there's no room to just let things happen as they happen in real life. And this is what dooms so much of narrative art is people don't know or understand how narrative should work. And so you have to have some broad strokes of what you're going to do, but never know. Like I knew with a Norwegian in the family, I knew that I was going to begin and end with the Norwegian coming up behind Paulie Maravelli and doing that thing, Hyacinth and May shtick that he has. Uh, but everything in between was open. And then towards 75 to 90% of the way in, I said, I got to go beyond that double ending I had planned. And I do. And then I said, oh, let me have the credits scene, well, the credits of the place, the works that I used within, and then also end up with Big Frank getting up from the boat and as if he's an actor just playing Big Frank, which makes no sense actually logically, but it works perfectly within the logic of the universe of a Norwegian in the family and the New York Quartet and the Schneider universe, the fictive universe in general. So you have to be open to those things. You have to know what you've done before, know how you do things, and have fun with it.